Hi, here we've got a couple of items that got brought into our local repair cafe where I'm a volunteer, and I didn't have time to look at them while I was there, so I thought I'd bring them home to have a look at. So we've got a little Akai radio there that doesn't have any sound, and we have a lithium battery charger that seems completely dead. So let's have a look at the little radio first. I'll just get this out of the way. And I think this is 6 volt. I think it said on the inside here. Yeah, so 6 volt, 1000 milliamp or 1 amp. So I'll just hook up the bench power supply. Let's just check that we are getting 6 volts out of this. And we are. So I'll just switch this on. It's a bit hard to see the display. So that's the volume level. It says U30 there. Well, you don't have any sound out of it at all. No crackling or anything. I can see the display a bit better there. I just heard a tiny little crackle from it there when I went under aux. Well, that's about it. So I've got a memory stick here, and it says this takes a USB memory stick, so let's just pop that in. We'll just see if it plays. Well, it's counting up there, and it says play, and I did hear a brief sort of sound emit from it, just for a brief moment, but nothing else. So it's obviously not working. Right, let's get into it and we'll see what's inside. So it looks like we've got 4 screws on the back. We'll get those out. Well, that came apart rather rapidly. So let's see what we've got in here then. We've got 2 speakers at the front here. They seem to go to this board here. Which seems to be an SD reader, USB, and a couple of audio input and output by the look of it. Phones and aux in. And this seems to be the main board here. Now it looks like this might slide out. However, I think the antenna's going to stop it. So I might have to remove this board first. Remove the antenna, and then we'll see if this top bit slides out, I think. Let's see if I can disconnect the speakers for now. We'll get those out of the way. Let's remove these 2 little screws and get this sub board out of the way. And we've got this antenna wire. Now, will that come out of the top? Yes. Well, there's not a lot on the board. Let's see if I can get those to go over that side. Let's find something to point with. So that looks like the main brains of the radio there. That looks like the tuner chip. We have a little serial EEPROM there. I guess that must store the stations and things. And I wonder if this is the audio amplifier, although I don't really recognise the number. What's that say? It is a MC. I think that's 4863 PD. Right, I'll go and have a look to see if I can find a data sheet for that. 1 moment, please. Well, I've managed to find the pinout for this IC. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hook the scope up. I'm going to set this away playing, and then I'm going to see if we get any audio actually going into the amplifier. And then we'll see if we get any audio coming out of the amplifier. Right, so that should be playing now. Right, so according to the diagram, I think this pin is one of the audio inputs. Now we do seem to be getting something on that pin. So that looks like audio. Let's just try on this one. Yeah, so it looks like we're getting audio into the amplifier. Now I can't remember which pin was the audio output. I know it was somewhere near the top here. I seem to be getting audio out of the amplifier there as well. What? So why haven't we got any sound? I just heard a little click there. I just wonder if this amplifier chip's gone or something. I think this is the supply. Ooh, well, that doesn't look quite right. I think we're only getting about 2 volts on the supply to the IC there. Let's go and grab the meter. Let's go into volts DC. So I'll just use the ground from the bench power supply. Yeah, we've only got about 1.8 or 1.9 volts going to the supply of the chip by the look of things. So I wonder if there's a short somewhere on this. So I've just been trying to trace through where the supply comes from. So it seems to go to, there's a capacitor across here, and there's a wire link goes to this point. It seems to go here. It seems to go through this diode. This doesn't go anywhere, it's not used. But then the power seems to come in from here. Now it looks like a little bit of a dry joint there on that pin. So I might switch this off and then we'll just try resoldering that, see if that makes any difference. Although when I'm poking it, it doesn't seem to be making any difference. I wonder if I can measure the voltage there. Try and get the meter in shot. Maybe better on that side. Yeah, so we're only getting 2 volts. What do we get on the other pin? So we're getting 5.9 volts there on that pin. But only 2 volts on that one. That seems to come over to the power inlet socket there. I'll solder that joint up and I think then we'll have a look at this power input socket, see if there's something gone wrong there. So let's just resolder this for now. I'll just plug this back in. I'll just see if that's made any difference. Well, that's weird. It's like the voltage is climbing slowly. I don't know if there's like a shorted capacitor or something somewhere. I'm just going to grab the thermal camera a second. Right, back with the thermal camera. Well, the main IC is a little bit warm, but not overly. What's going on over here? There's something giving a bit of heat off. Trying to work out whereabouts that is. Seems to be round about here. Must be a voltage regulator or something underneath here. The audio IC isn't getting hot. Well, it definitely looks like there's something on the underside of the board there. I wonder if there's a short or something under here. So I'm just looking at the circuit again here. So this is the ground. We've got about 6 volts coming in on this pin, which then goes through this voltage regulator or whatever under here. But that doesn't explain why we've only got 2 volts or so on this pin. So I'm going to take the voltage input jack plug out and we're going to have a look at that next. So it's got a little plastic thing to hold it in place. That's it, it's stuck in. Well, this has got a couple of components on it as well. It also looks like it's been had the top of it chopped off with something like wire cutters or something there. Shaped to fit. So what have we got on here then? Let's see if we can work out. So it's the wire with the crosses on. So where does that come here? That goes to this end pin, which is marked 5 volts. Okay, I've got DC plus, ground and 5 volts. So let's unplug this plug. We'll connect the bench power supply up to here and then we'll see what voltages we get on there. That might be the way to go then. I'll just use the ground here. 6 volts. 3.7, 3.8. So it appears that the problem's on here because that should be giving out 5 volts according to the silk screen. So I'm just wondering if there's a shorted capacitor there or something maybe. Right. So I think we might have found what's wrong with it. I'm just going to move these bits out of the way a moment. So the capacitor is 470 microfarads, 16 volts. Let's try with the ESR 70 gold. And we'll just measure it in circuit just to get a rough idea. That doesn't look very good. $412 microfarads. I'm sure it was only 47 or something. Ah, 470. So it might actually be okay, that. So we have emitter, collector and base, and it looks like the collector goes to this end pin here. So I wonder if it's that transistor's failed. I see maybe getting a reading that way, but not that way. I'm going to take this out and we'll try it in the component tester, I think. Well, I don't think that seems right. Doesn't seem to be measuring as a transistor. So I think this might be the problem. So this is a 2SB772. I don't have one of those, but what I have is a 2SB920. Snip off the excess legs. Well, it's not quite 5 volts. It's not getting warm or anything. I think we'll just try it and see what it does. So this is just for the battery input. So let's just leave it like that a moment. I'll switch it on. And here, crackling. Well, it seems to be doing something. Let's try FM or something. Well, it's making sound on FM. It's drawing about half an amp. Let's just check what the voltage is on the audio amplifier, because this audio amplifier is supposed to be about 5 volts. So let's just see. I've only got about 3 volts there. So perhaps there's something else, or perhaps that transistor I've used isn't good enough. Right, I'll have a look, see what else I can find then. So we've got 2 little transistors on the board here. Let's just test those. So that one seems okay. And that one seems okay. So it just must be this transistor. So I'll see if I can find another transistor then. Right, I think I've made a bit of progress. So I'll show you what I've discovered. So this is the output. So if I go onto ground and measure the left speaker on volts DC, you can see we've got pretty much nothing. If I measure the right speaker, go onto the ground of that one, we've got 2.5 volts DC. So if I measure directly on the speakers themselves, 2.5 volts on that one. And nothing on that one. So I think the audio amplifier's gone, and that's what's caused the voltage regulator fail. So I've ordered a new IC. So once it arrives, we'll fit it and we'll see if that cures the problem. In the meantime, let's have a look at the charger. So the charger was completely dead. There's just no power lights on it. I've got the dim bulb tester here, so we'll just plug it into that and we'll just see if there's any life on the dim bulb tester. Absolutely nothing. So no lights. That hasn't lit up, so it definitely seems completely dead. So it looks like we have 4 look like hex screws there. So I'll just grab a screwdriver. Right, back with a suitable screwdriver. Right, let's see what's inside of it. Just be a little bit careful because there might be charge in the mains cap. Right, so the mains cap is across those 2 points there. So let's get the meter out. I'm just going to volts DC. Let's just see if there's any charge in the mains cap. So it looks like the mains cap has had power because we've got 10 volts in there. That's slowly going down. So right, let's just zoom down a bit and we'll have a look over this power supply, see if we can see anything obvious first. So this is where the mains comes in. We'll probably have a little bit filter in there, yeah. Bridge rectifier, mains cap. This is the little switch in IC, and that must be the MOSFET that it controls. So that'll be the gate, and we'll have the source and drain pins over here. And these look like the transformer. And then we've got the output of the transformer here. So I might just plug it in and we'll just measure the voltage across the mains cap. And we'll see if we get any voltage on the output, which... Let's see if we've got an output capacitor, which is just here. So that looks like the output capacitor there. So let's see what voltages we get on those. Right, so that's it live now. So we're going to be a bit careful here. So let's just measure on this mains cap. We've got 328 volts there. But we have nothing on the output. Let's switch it back off for now. Just going to try something a moment, just a thought. Right. So this is the output capacitor here, but if we measure the resistance across it, we've almost got a dead short. So I would have thought if there's a problem on the input side, it's probably either going to have blown the fuse or whatever. Let's see, if the MOSFET was short, or it would have probably blown the mains fuse. So I don't think the problem's on the mains side. I think it's on the output side here. I'll just see if that capacitor is discharged first. Yeah, there's about 11 volts in there. That's all right. I'll see if I can get this so we can look at it a little bit better. So we have two rectifier diodes here with a position for a third one by the look of it that's not populated. So let's just measure across those. Just going to diode check. So it looks like we have a short on one of these diodes. But which one? What we could do is get the bench power supply. And we'll try injecting voltage on the output cap here. So that's negative. And that's positive. So if we connect the bench power supply to there and there, and then we'll see what gets hot with the thermal camera. Right, I'll set the power supply up. Well, I've got the power supply set at 1 volt at 1 amp. And it looks like one of those diodes. You can just see the heat underneath it there. Let's see if we can figure out which diode it is. So that looks like the bottom diode. That one there. The top one's not getting as hot, but the bottom one is. Right, I'm going to switch this off. I'll switch the thermal camera off. And we'll try removing this bottom diode. Let's add some fresh solder first. Let's see if we can get this diode out. It seems to be glued in. Right, that's the diode out. Let's just test that with the meter now it's out of circuit. I'll try the other way. Yep, so that's short. Let's just check the one that's still in there. There we go. So it looks like they might have skimmed on this by removing one of the diodes. So the other two might have been quite enough to pass the current. So let's see if we can see what this diode is then. Let's clean this silicone stuff off. And it looks like SR5200. Right, I'll see if we can get one of those, and when I might get two actually, and fit one in the other position as well. So when those arrive, we'll fit those and then we'll see if it works.
1 week later.
It's been just over a week and the new parts have arrived. However, I had to order them from AliExpress, so these could be fake parts. I'm not 100% yet. So I think what we'll do is I might just test them first. So forgot I had this little gadget here, which is a voltage withstand tester. And what it does, it'll check the breakdown voltages of things. So these are the diodes, which are rated at 200 volts. So let's just see what voltage that they break down at. Just switch this on. So 253 volts. So they seem in spec as long as they handle the 5 amp current. So the other thing I'm going to do is check these transistors here. I'll just get one of those out. So between the collector and the emitter, it's rated for 30 volts. So let's see what we actually get. And we get near enough 50. So that seems within spec. And the collector base is rated at about 60 volts. So let's see what we get there. And yeah. So it does measure within the specs for the voltages. So hopefully these work okay. So one of the other things you can do with this, if you've got some Zener diodes and you're not sure of the voltage of them, because they've came out the packet or such. So these ones are 47 volts. So let's just connect that up. 46.7. So it's a handy little thing this. I can't remember who recommended I get one. But if you want one of these, I've left some links in the video description below, along with some of the other tools that I use. Now, one thing I won't be able to test with that is the ICs. But what we can do, when I remove the old one from the radio, we'll throw them in the X-ray machine and we'll see if we can see any differences between the old IC and the new IC. So I thought we'd have a look at the radio first. That's the IC that needs removed and replaced. and this is one of the new ICs, and the first thing I've noticed is the writing style is slightly different. On the original chip it looks kind of more engraved into the chip, and this one doesn't look quite as deep or even just printed on. And also the dimple there is actually different to the one here, so we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just going to put some flux on this IC first. And then we'll just put some hot air on it and see if it comes off. Just going to clean the old solder off with the bit of solder wick here. Just going to put a little bit more flux on. I'm just going to retin these pads. That one might be a little bit of a problem, but those two pins are connected anyway, so I think we'll just give this a bit of a clean up now with some IPA. Right, so ready for the new chip to go on. So let's x-ray these chips and let's see if there's any difference between them. So the old components are the ones across the top here, and the new components are the ones across the bottom here, and those chips do look pretty much identical, so I think that's a genuine part. The transistors look very similar as well, and the diodes look quite similar too. Actually, what I have just noticed is the die on the new part here is slightly larger than the die on the old part here. Let's just see if we can zoom in a bit on that. Yeah, it's definitely bigger. So at least the pattern of the die is actually the same. And I've not really seen one before with these holes and things on the legs. Looks a little bit unusual, that. So I think we'll fit these parts and we'll see how we'll get on. Right, let's get the new chip in position. We'll try giving it some hot air. I don't know if I'm quite happy with that. I might touch these up with the soldering iron. I just don't think there's quite enough solder on the pins. That's a bit better. And those two are joined together in anyway, so it doesn't make any difference about those. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a clean up. Let's get the transistor fitted then. Just before we fit this transistor, I'll just show you what the difference is between the working one and the non-working one. So the working one, if we go on the base here, you can see there we've got like a 0.7 volt drop between the base and the collector, and the same with the base and the emitter, and we shouldn't get any reading between the collector and the emitter while the transistor's off. However, if we look on this one, we do the same thing. So if I go to that pin there, which is the base, nothing on the collector, we have got a reading on the emitter there, like we have here. It's actually slightly different reading as well, but we're not getting any reading from there to there. But also, we seem to be getting a reading from there to there, which we shouldn't. Right, let's get this one fitted then, and then we'll assemble the radio and we'll see if it all works. Let's just cut off the legs. So hopefully that should be it all repaired now, so we'll put it together and we'll see what it does. Well, I've just finished putting it all back together. I've got a memory stick with some copyright-free music on, or stuff that I'm not going to get a ban for, or a copyright strike. So it's considerably louder now as well, and it's drawn about 170 milliamps. So it's drawn way less current now as well. Let's just try FM or something. Not that I'll probably get any signal here. But that's to pretty much be expected where I am, so we don't get a lot of radio reception, so. But it seems to be working. We've got sound now, so I think we'll call this one a fix. Right, let's have a look at this charger then. Let's see if we can get this one fixed then. So I've bent the diodes to the right shape, so let's see if we can pop those in. Might be a little bit tricky because you can't really get my fingers in here. There's one in. And there's the other one in. I should just be to solder these up now. Well, that looks okay. I'll just snip off some of the excess on those two legs there. Right, I'll just grab a screwdriver and we'll pop these screws in. And a little tip if you didn't know it, when you're putting screws in, especially into plastic, and it even works with bolts and steel and stuff, you give it a turn to the left a little bit until it goes click. Like that. That just means that it's in the thread properly. And you're not cutting a new thread when you're tightening it up. Right, I think I'm just going to plug this straight in. So it's either going to fail spectacularly or it's going to work. Well, it's got power and we have a power light. So let's see if it starts charging. And hey, we've got a green light on there. So there's another couple of nice repairs and 2 items saved from the landfill.